Don't you dare shade with pure black, it'll mess up your art. That's a common phrase you hear when learning how to color. Or at least, that's what I've heard from many a high school art teacher and also on YouTube. Don't shade with pure black, or else. But what if I told you that it's wrong? If that's true, why do so many amazing artists and art styles use pure black? Jen Zee, Simone Di Meo, Cravat, all amazing art with black shading. So let's see how I found out how to use black with a little help of this. A tutorial on just that. By Cravat, this tutorial is basically saying, except for the highlights, just use flat black for the shadows, with sharp edges. But don't forget the reflected light. And it gives a few examples on folds and places Cravat uses them, like on clothing and hair. There's not much text in this tutorial, so you have to make the inferences yourself. So here are a few things I observed across my favorite artists who all use pure black. First, where do they put the pure black shadows? Under the chin gives dimension. Along the arm or leg to separate it from the torso and other parts of the body. To follow creases in clothing and make the clothing look 3D-like. Both big and small shapes are used and interspersed throughout. So, with this tutorial and a few notes, let's see if I can use this on 2 half-finished drawings of my own. First, make sure you lighten the initial colors. If the colors are already too close to black, there's not enough contrast. So the black dress here is lightened with an add layer before starting. Then move the color all the way to the lower left to pure black and use either a hard brush or a lasso tool to start making these shapes with hard edges, keeping in mind the common places. Then start with the darkest area and follow the creases in the clothing. I know the light is coming from behind to the right, so I concentrate the shadows mostly on the lower left. Of course, you can stop here and follow the tutorial exactly, but I really like Simone Di Meo's gradients, so I tried it out on the hair here and ended up liking it a lot. Separating the character onto a neon background also looks pretty nice. And let me try it on my other drawing of Surtur. I lightened the canvas with a different method this time, using the tone curve to lighten the midtones while keeping the darkest blacks. Then I add more pure black with the lasso fill tool. There's a bunch of pastel colors in the background, but I think the lighter colors create a nicer contrast than my previous example. Later, I add back the saturation just out of personal preference with a vivid light layer. I think why people say don't shade with black is because there's a problem with overgeneralizing. Realism rarely has black shadows because bounce light still makes shadows off black. For example, people usually tint their shadows blue because of the bounce light from the sky. Even with stylized works, I think people new to art have a simplistic view of color. So if they want the skin shade darker, they add black. And as a result, their painting becomes muddy. But not in the whole painting is gray, so it looks nice kind of way, but a sickly gray that doesn't match the rest of the colors. The problem with a lot of tips online is that not a lot of tips are inherently bad. It's just that people overgeneralize a lot. Not all tips can be used in all situations. Tips are short and quick, so tutorial makers don't explain to beginners why tips are made. And people parrot these tips, like, don't use pure black to shade. Does it look like these colors here are muddy? No, because the black is applied in almost all solid blacks, and the saturation is added back to counter the muddiness. I remember back in high school, my art teacher was so strict with the no black paint rule that all of the black paint tubes were hidden from students, and she wanted us to mix our own black every time. And if you've ever mixed paint before, you'd know that mixing all the colors will either give you a dark brown or dark gray, not pure black. Aside from being a massive time waste. Want high contrast paintings? Paint a night sky? Too bad. Anyways, don't be like my high school art teacher all those years ago and always take quick art tips with a grain of salt. It's not that there are exceptions, it's just that not every tip or rule can be generalized, and there are always stipulations. It's just that people are too lazy to list them all because quick tips are easy clicks. Take the always add blue to your shadows example. If you think about this tip, it usually works if your painting location is outside under the sky. And even then, overcast skies, sunset scenes, nighttime scenes, they all change the intensity of the blue in the shadow. But if it's a quick 1-minute YouTube short or top 10 art tips video, of course they're not going to put that all in. They need to hold retention and get that sweet, sweet views. I feel like it's irresponsible to lead beginners down the long road for easy tips when they inevitably overgeneralize. They don't realize that the problem isn't their ability, but the tips they take in good faith. But that's me being salty from when I watched art videos back then that set my art back for however long it did. Okay, I'm officially off topic, so time to rein it in. I think that using pure black in your painting is up to your preferences. Some people like the pure black look, some don't, so I can't say that it'll be used for every single painting. I personally like it because I like high contrast a lot. It's like a little effect, a little cherry on top type of thing to make the paintings bolder in a sense. And a quick note, I added a black outline to add focus on the character and to connect the shadows. This isn't really a tutorial test, but I'll rate it anyways. Cravat's tutorial, S. A few more words to describe exactly where to put the black would be helpful, but let's be real. Most of art is observing yourself, learning things yourself, and memorizing it yourself. And there are plenty of examples to make your own deductions about where to place the shadows. The basic sphere for fundamentals is all there. Now that I think about it, should I make this a series? Disproving shitty art tips. Proving shitty art tips wrong. I hope this was interesting, and more art tutorial tests and studies are to come. Thanks for watching. See ya! I was way too salty near the end there. You can disregard the last bit.